everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Madeline and I create knitting content here on YouTube. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I make my knitting charts using Excel. So when I first started writing knitting charts, I spent a while researching online how to actually make them, because it seems like there's a lot of complicated symbols and things, and it appeared that there were some programs that you can use, but of course those are all ones you have to pay for, and at that point I wasn't ready to make that splurge, and I'm still not ready to make that. So what I do is I actually make all of my knitting charts for cable patterns using Excel. So I thought I'd just put together this little tutorial and just show you how I make them in case you're interested in writing some chart patterns and are looking for an easy way to make these little cable symbols. So just to start off, I'm using Microsoft Excel here, and I'm just going to open a blank workbook. And the first thing you'll notice here is when you open a blank workbook, basically the row height and the column width are different dimensions. But in a chart, each one of the stitches is a little square. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch each of these into being a little square. So to do that, I'm going to select the top left corner of the chart, and that highlights all the cells. And then I'm going to right click on the bar in between cells A and B. That'll bring up the option for column width. Select that. And now the measurement that I found that works the best is 2.2. I've spent a while trying to figure out exactly how to make it compare with the row height, but the way Excel works, it actually gives you different dimensions or different measurement units for the row height and the column width. So if I show you, basically the row height right now says it's 16, whereas my column width is set at 2.2. So they're using some sort of different measurement here. But anyway, for my column width, I make that 2.2, or it actually rounds down to 2.17, which is fine. So now I have my squares. The next thing that I do is I put in the row numbers and the stitch numbers across the bottom. So first, the row numbers are going to go up the side, and I just start down in a corner. I'm just going to put in a couple numbers and then drag them up. I'm using a Mac right now, whereas I usually use a Windows computer, so I might take me a little bit longer to figure out how to do these things on a Mac. And now I'm going to put in my stitches across the bottom. So let's say I have a 20 stitch repeat in my cable chart. And the way I selected where to put these is basically how you read a knitting chart. So when you read a knitting chart, you read from right to left, and you read from bottom to top, because I'm assuming right now I'm knitting in the round. So let me just add these all up here at the top. So I'm going to write a cable chart in the round. So just a regular square is going to be a knit stitch, and then when I fill it in with gray, that's going to be a purl stitch. And that's because I'm knitting in the round, so I don't have to worry about right side and wrong side. Okay, so now I have my little pretend sheet right here. So I'm going to add each of my cells in here. So I just go to the border box, and then I do all borders. So these are going to be each one of my cells. So each one of these is an individual stitch. And now, let's say I'm working on a hat, and I've just finished ribbing right below that where this cable charts are going to begin. And then up here, I'm going to begin working the cable chart. So what I actually like to do is right below this, sometimes I leave this in, sometimes I take it out. I'm just going to add in what my ribbing looks like. And this helps me to visualize and make sure all my stitches are going in the right direction. So I'm going to say I've knit 2, purl 2 ribbing. And you can definitely select all these sets of 4 at one time. Once again, I'm just using a Mac, so I'm not as quick on Macs. Okay, so here's my knit 2, purl 2 ribbing across the bottom. And now let's say for this design, maybe I want to keep these center knit stitches going straight up and then have any ones to the right of that moving towards the left and any ones to the left of that moving towards the right. So the first stitch I'm going to need is going to be a cable stitch that takes up 3 stitches, and I'm going to want to move these 2 knit stitches in front towards the left. So I actually create all my cable stitches over off to the side. And what I like to do is I like to zoom in really far. And now, just anywhere where you have extra space on your sheet. The first thing I do in making each one of these cable symbols is I actually just draw a box that's the size of the number of stitches that's involved in each one. So the stitch I was just describing is a 3-stitch cable. So I'm going to insert, go to insert, then shapes, select the rectangle, and now I'm going to draw a box that takes up 3 squares. And right now I'm just going to fill it in with gray and get rid of the border. So this is going to be the size of my cable. It actually looks like my box is now a little smaller once I got rid of the outline, so I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger again. Okay. So this is the size of my cable it's going to be. And now what I wanted to do is I wanted to take these 2 knit stitches and move them over towards the left. So what that would look like on a cable is I use the parallelogram in the shapes options. And when you draw the parallelogram, you can get it to tilt basically one way towards the right, but we actually want it to tilt towards the left. So once I draw it, I'm just going to click on the arrow on the furthest right side and then drag it over towards the left, and now it tilts the opposite direction. And now I want this to take up 2 stitches and then be 1 stitch tall. So basically I'm getting closer, but not quite there yet. It takes a lot of dragging. So it's approximately the right size, like height-wise right now, but I need it to only take up 2 stitches instead of 3. So I'm going to click on this yellow box, and then you can drag it so that it only takes up 2 stitches. And then I get really picky about it, so I'll sit here and drag it for a while, making sure it perfectly lines up within there. And then those are knit stitches, so I'm going to fill it in with white and then get rid of my border. So this would be moving 2 stitches knitwise in the front and then purling the stitch in the back. So if you actually wanted to do something where it was maybe knitting the stitch in the back, what you would do is you just reselect that rectangle in the back and then fill that one in with white instead. And then you'd want to have a border along that parallelogram. So you'd add a black border around that. You'd actually want a black border around the full thing, just so that you could actually see the cable. A lot of times what you'll see too is you'll see a diagonal line going the opposite way, representing this 1 stitch over on the left-hand side, moving over towards the right. So what I do there is I do insert, shapes, select a line, and then drag it from, oops, it just snapped to the wrong place. Let me get rid of that. Insert a line. It's going to keep on trying to snap, so I'm just going to put it somewhere else and then drag it. I'm going to put it on that corner and then drag it to there, and then you're actually going to want a second one of these lines. So I'm going to copy and paste that. And then the second line, basically lines up with the other side of that stitch. I'm going to make both of those black to match the rest of my shape. And now you don't want those two lines going in front of your knit stitches because the knit stitches go in, or the two stitches go in the front. So I'm actually just going to click on my parallelogram again, right click on it, and then click bring to front. And that way it's clear that those two knit stitches come in the front, and then you have the one knit stitch following across the back. So again, for the purpose of my example, this one's actually going to be a purl stitch. So I'm going to fill this one in with gray. Let's change the outline color by accident. I'm not sure if that's still the same gray color, but just for example purposes. So yes, this would be one of my cable stitches. And now what I want to do also is I want to group these all together. So I'm just going to hold down Control, click on them all, then right click, group them together. And let's see if I got them all. Yep. So now I can move this around, and I can also copy and paste it. So now I can just replicate this cable pattern all throughout the chart wherever I need this one. Now to make a cable stitch that goes in the opposite direction, I'm going to copy this one and paste it. The first thing I want to do is I'm just going to move my parallelogram out of the box real quick. That way I can work on these two diagonal lines. So instead of starting at the left and slanting towards the right, now they're going to start at the right and slant towards the left. So I basically just need to get the mirror image of this. I'm going to shift those back over. And now I need my parallelogram to also go in the opposite direction. So I'm going to click all the way on the left center box and then drag it over towards the right. I'm going to put it in with the other pieces and then finish adjusting the size. Okay, so that would be my right leaning cable that takes up 3 stitches. Now, basically, these are just examples of 3-stitch cables. You can do the same thing with 4-stitch cables. So what you would do with the 4-stitch cable is now I would just draw a box that takes up 4 stitches. I'm going to make it gray. Outline it in black. And now what I actually like to do here is I like to use 2 parallelograms. So first, let's say I have the right ones going in front towards the left, and the left one's going behind towards the right. I'm just going to fit my parallelogram to the box first, and then take the yellow dot and drag it so it's the right number of stitches. Okay, and now I need to redo that one. Go in the opposite direction. That one in front. And so let's just say they're all knit stitches. So first I'm going to make the background white. And then each one of my parallelograms white with black outlines. So that would be an example of a 4-stitch cable. And again, you'd want to group all these together. Now let me just double check that I grouped them. Yep, so now I can move them all around together. And then each one of these should be grouped as well. Okay, great. So let's say this is the basis for what I'm going to be working with in this pattern. Let me zoom back out again. I'm actually just going to delete a couple of these so I can get it all on one screen. Okay, so the first thing I said I wanted to do is take these 2 knit stitches and move them towards the left. So I'm going to select all 3 of those boxes, and then I like to merge the boxes and then copy my cable and then paste it right into the box. So there's my first cable stitch. Now I want to take basically these 2 knit stitches and move those again over towards the left. So I'm going to highlight the 3 boxes that would be involved in that cable, merge them, and again paste in my cable symbol. These 2 knit stitches in the center we're going to stay the same. And then over here I'm moving these 2 knit stitches over towards the right one. I'm going to merge those and then copy and paste in my cable, and then again repeat that over a little bit further. And now I just need to go across that row and fill in where my purl stitches are. So I'm going to fill each one of those in with gray where it should be a purl stitch. Now on the next row, I'm just going to have regular knits and purls in pattern. I'm going to fill those in across. And once you've created each one of your cables, it goes a lot quicker putting them all together because then you essentially just have to copy and paste them. Every once in a while you'll decide to put it in a new cable and that'll take a couple minutes to set it up. But I basically just have one Excel sheet where I keep all my cables. And that way whenever I'm writing a new one, I can just copy and paste that cable into whatever Excel sheet I'm using. So now on this next one, let's say move this one. And I'm just kind of having fun here, so I'm not too sure what this is going to look like. I'm just showing how I put in my cable stitches. Now again on this row, I'm going to fill in my purl stitches. And next row will be worked just in knit and purls. And now finally on this next row, I've gotten up to where I want to put in my 4-stitch cable. So I'm going to highlight the 4 cells and then copy and paste in that cable symbol. So in this one, I actually might want to fix this one a little bit because you see how that bottom left-hand side is a little off center? I'm going to zoom in again on that one and fix that because that would bother me. So that looks better. Okay, I like more what that one looks like now. So now I'm gonna delete this previous one and then put in this new one. And what I found too is if you ever decide to change your cables, you always want to change, I kind of call these ones up the top like the master cables, just so that then you don't have to sit here and change each one of these individually. That way you can just delete any ones you don't want anymore and then replace them with the fixed one that you have up top. So I hope you found this useful. This is how I make my cable patterns in Excel. Down at the bottom, down in the description box below, I'll include basically like this Excel sheet I was working on and these cable patterns or symbols that I've created in this kind of like tutorial. So that way if you want to see them or play around with them or use them in your charts, feel free to. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe down below, and I'll see you next time.